Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Next Generation's First Generation. This is a watch along podcast where we review your favorite Star Trek episode on the 30th anniversary of its release date. I'm your host, Sasha Shouties, and with me is also our other host, Patrick Delmore.
Hey, everybody.
Well, Patrick, we've got a really exciting episode lined up for us today. What is it called?
It's the Realm of Fear. It's a Barclay episode.
Yay! I love Barclay so much. He is probably one of the most flexible, comfortable, uncomfortable characters that we use on the show to explore the deeper stuff, shall we say. So please cue up your viewing device. We are watching this off of the Paramount Plus version, but have no fear, we're going to keep the volume really low so it doesn't interfere with your watch along process. So when you're ready, cue it up. Here comes the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, and play.
All right. So the Enterprise is on its way to rescue the USS Yosemite, which is, it's funny because it's like, I don't know about you, but when I first saw that word written down, even after hearing Yosemite Sam so many times, I always thought it was Yosemite.
Yep, I can believe that.
Yeah.
There is another widely used scientific ship model. I can't remember the name of that model. The Oberth class, I think.
Maybe,
but
I have to see it on screen again.
But I do know that this 2-star phenomena that they use has actually been used in 3 episodes total, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice effect. They just redress it and give it different colors. So it was in, I believe, Evolution, all the way back in season 3. And we're going to see it again in Preemptive Strike in season 7, episode 24. And here's Barclay. You know it's going to be good when you see the Lieutenant Barclay.
Yeah.
The only thing, though, is that he always seems to revert back to this very uncomfortable person, even though he's made a lot of strides from the previous episode.
This is a fantastic teamwork episode.
Yes.
It's all about we do have confidence in Barclay.
You'll notice. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, never. I thought for a second this was O'Brien's last episode before he moved on to Deep Space Nine, but I know he's in at least one more this season.
Correct. He did get a promotion, though. You will see that he is now a chief. And even though there's a lot of inconsistencies going on with O'Brien's rank, the reason why they made him a chief here is so he could outrank Barclay.
No, Barclay outranks.
Well, that was the thing, is his prior rank to what he is now, lieutenant junior grade, would have outranked O'Brien, or so says what I'm reading.
Okay. Oh, Barclay got it. Yeah, Barclay got a promotion. Yes, he did. Because O'Brien has to sir the ever-loving crap out of Barclay, even though you can tell he doesn't quite respect him. That's the thing, is it's like nobody. There's a lot of respect for his rank, and not a lot of respect for him as a person. So if your starship is caught in a binary star field, and if you can find him and he's not afraid to use the transporter, you can call Lieutenant Barclay. That's my A-team joke. It fell flat. Are you still there, Sasha?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I forgot I'm on mute. So Barclay is an interesting character because he's that guy at work that you don't like, but you have to get along with. And I think they play that dynamic really well. And, you know, it's okay to be uncomfortable around somebody at work, but as long as you're getting the job done and you're treating him with respect. And I think they do that very well with Barkley, at least better than when we first introduced the character. When we first introduced the character, they gave him no flexibility.
Yeah.
I'd also want to say too that Barkley, you know, he just freaked out and walked off the transporter pad. This is a nice parallel to the fear of flight, which actually the writer of this episode was trying to tap into, and we'll get into a little bit more of that as it comes up. But this is season 6, episode 2, Realm of Fear. It came out in September 28th, 1992. Can you believe that? It was written by Brandon Braga and directed by our good friend, well, our lovely Cliff Boyle. And what were we doing in September? We were just getting ready to get back to school.
Yep, starting the 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a fun mix of it being a really good crew episode, but it's also kind of a horror story.
Yes. So when they were sitting down to write this episode, apparently from kind of the research that I did, and this is cited from several sources, from Captain's Log, Unauthorized Complete Trek Voyages. Mr. Braga said that this is actually one of his most personable episodes. Actually, they kind of joked that he was Barkley on the writing team. And when they wrote this, they kind of wanted to go Fear of Flight, Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
I was just going to say Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
Mm-hmm. Is that old Will Shatner airplane episode. Yep. And but the trick was they didn't want to touch too closely to Twilight Zone when they did this. They just wanted to do enough to kind of reference it, but not be, you know, just kind of blatant and cheesy.
Well, this is Nightmare at 20,000 feet if everybody believed him.
Oh, yes.
If they're like, let's do something about, there must be a gremlin on the plane. Let's do something about it. Which is good, because it's like my first real experience of the story of Nightmare at 20,000 feet, which if people don't know is the Twilight Zone episode, as Sasha said, with William Shatner, where he's a man that has had a nervous breakdown and is on an airplane. He's afraid of flying, and he sees a gremlin on the wing of the airplane. The gremlin is actually there. It's not his imagination, but nobody believes him. And he just goes crazy, and at the end, they land, and the wing of the airplane falls off. My first experience with that story was they did a Simpsons episode about a gremlin on the side of the bus. And Bart can see it, but he gets basically sent to a mental institution because whether or not it was true, he caused a disruption, which was unacceptable.
Oh my goodness.
Which was a very, very real childhood fear. Actually, I think that was this year that they did that. No, it would have been the next year. It was the beginning of season 5, but
yeah. Well, you know, you bring up a really good point. So the Simpsons episode, the 20,000 feet episode, and then this episode, it's all about deflection. So everybody says this is more likely a behavioral issue than there's something out there. And only in kind of like the last act is our hero justified or vindicated.
But they have to change the way that the transporter works completely in this episode. And I don't know if they ever show. Oh, I do have to bring this up. Plexing. Troy's thing where she taps the back of the carotid artery with 2 fingers. I've always wished that was a real thing. I've never been able to make that do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks weird.
It's not for everyone. So this is a form of real therapy called tapping. But it's not like this magic button that you just push for endorphins. And Barclay's kind of being cheesy and running away with it. It's like, oh, this is great, thank you very much, I don't need to talk to you anymore, see you later, and he walks out. So with tapping, when you feel that you've got anxiety, you already have some good place imagery in your mind, and you focus on that while you tap. And the idea is that you're supposed to, and I'm being really loose with this, but from what I understand, it's an association of an emotion to a physical stimuli. And if you do this enough times, it can work out. So here we are on the
Yosemite.
This Yosemite Sam.
And the crew seems to have disappeared. This plot gets used again in an upcoming episode of Relics. Basically, what's going to turn out is they're in the transporter buffer.
Well, you've got the right person there. So Jordy could have actually said, yeah, I remember seeing this not too long ago, where people just hung out in the buffer. So this is a little on the job cross training. This guy didn't make it. Boy, he looks like barbecue.
Yeah. Now, season 6, it's really interesting. They did what is it? They novelized Relics and they novelized Descent. I'm trying to see if they novelized any of the other episodes now. Because it's the ones that get novels that are big deals are Encounter at Farpoint, of course, Unification, All Good Things, and then the movies. I would have thought Chain of Command would have gotten a novelization, but
oh, that would have been nice.
Yeah.
Now here's the first and only mention of O'Brien's pet's spider.
Yeah, he's setting himself up for what's going to happen on Deep Space Nine, where he just gets messed with all the time.
Yeah,
he's kind of the Riker. He's kind of the Riker of getting into nasty situations on Deep Space Nine.
Can you imagine if voles were these spiders, which he is describing now on Deep Space Nine?
Oh yeah, the Cardassian voles.
So everyone's afraid to go into these conduits because you might be making friends with a 3-meter long spider.
So here we're going to see, this is completely counter to what we have previously known about how transporters work. Although maybe in that Trill episode, didn't that also have this transporter effect where you're inside of a beam and you see like one place disappear and the next place appearing?
Yeah, I don't recall. I know for Next Gen, they only did a point of view in the stream twice. So it's this one and then another episode. I can't remember which one. But I can't put my finger on it. I know what you're referencing though.
Because what my understanding is of the transporter had always been that, it's what it looks like on Discovery. Basically, your molecule, you're taken apart molecule by molecule and then reassembled on the other side. Mm-hmm. You're not riding a beam from one place to the other. Have you ever read the Stephen King story, The Jaunt?
No, I have not.
It's about how they create transporter technology, kind of like that, where you're actually moving through something, but the deal is you have to be knocked out for it because you go through negative space and it takes you about 1 billion years.
Oh my goodness.
But you reach your destination simultaneously. It's just the transport process itself. You're moving just through this gate for literally billions of years. If you're awake, you go crazy.
Yeah, can you imagine the first couple of people to do this? To like, oh my gosh, I couldn't do anything. I just existed in non-corporeal form.
Yep.
Holy cow. So here's the Admiral. That's not Admiral Nechayev. Who is that?
No, that wasn't Nechayev. It was just an admiral.
Boy, Livingston's really swimming around quite a bit there. It's the most action I've ever seen out of that fish. And there's Picard's power crystal. So we kind of talked over it, but you notice that Barclay, like you said, he was conscious during the transport process, which really raises a lot of questions on how does a transporter actually work on your consciousness itself? Because this is where it gets really hard. You actually have to quantify what consciousness is, because if you're taking somebody apart molecule by molecule and reassembling them on the other side, would you have a lapse in consciousness as you're being taken apart? Oh, there's our
band puppet took a bite out of him.
That's just such a goofy puppet. When I watched this for the first time, I thought those puppets were a little cheesy. But turns out it's just a guy in a green suit with this puppet on his hand. And it's to scale too. When you see the puppet, it's about the width of his shoulders and about half the thickness of his head.
I think they did a good job of making it just look weird enough that, like, if you were like lying in bed and, you know, kind of falling asleep and you saw something like that moving towards you, that'd be incredibly startling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of, to me, of Poltergeist in there, where the guy shows the kid that he got like bitten by an invisible creature, and the kid's like, "It took a bite of you."
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Because he did get bit.
So they're going through logs and sample containers. So we're going back to where's the crew, or are they just still trying to figure out what happened? Maybe a little bit of both.
I mean, Barclay's hyper focused on what happened to him, trying to see if he can get LaForge to say, you know, that he's seen something like that in the transporter beam.
It's interesting because what started all of this was O'Brien's trying to help him out with a little bit of exposure therapy of hey, let's take a ride through the transporter. Nothing's wrong. So they kind of established they needed this in the episode. They established that a benign transport is exactly that. It's benign. And then ever since that benign transport, Barclay always sees these space worms.
You know, it's too bad.
Go ahead.
I don't know if they lined the dates up with this, but what happened to him in the transporter, they're talking about how it had happened previously to people. It would have been cool if, when they did Discovery, they'd lined up the dates and said that was what was going on with the Black Alert transport of the ship.
Mm.
You know, when Stamets would get all ripped apart doing that.
Oh yeah, where the entire body was twisted and contorted. That was in the sister ship that had the other program.
Yes.
Where the Klingon shushed Tilly.
Yeah.
Did he shush? So this is what I like, is that they don't respect Barclay professionally. No, sorry, as a person. They do respect him professionally, and they are tearing apart the transporter and trying to figure out what it is that Barclay saw. And I appreciate this, because even though they did not like him as an individual, they gave him a chance to actually find out what the problem is. And I don't think that you get this in today's society, where if someone makes an outrageous claim, it's not like our best people are going to drop what they're doing and investigate your delusional claim.
Right.
In fact, it actually warped my sense of duty in a positive way, because watching Star Trek, I thought, oh, well, sir, you know, doctors, police officers, firefighters, they're all going to respond in the same way, is that they're going to do whatever it takes to figure out what's going on. And what's really sad is, of course, growing up, you kind of realize that the bureaucratic mentality kind of squashes a lot of hopes that people would do their jobs effectively.
But this is like, though, if you were on a battleship or an aircraft carrier and you were like being lowered on the, lowered into a landing craft or something, like over the side of the boat, and you were like, it made a noise that I didn't recognize. Like, I've gone down a bunch of times and something's up. It's to do with the safety of the whole crew. You would make a big deal out of this.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, when you talk about, policemen and firefighters, if it's to do with human error, that's one thing. But this is to do with the ship and the only way to get to planets and go to missions and stuff.
Yeah.
Is the transporter a lot of the time. So it needs to work. It is an emergency.
These are great burn effects on this person.
Oh God, yeah. I don't think you would do it like this anymore.
I still think it looks like, barbecue sauce on a whole bunch of silicone, but the fact that they went to this level of damage. I mean, this is kind of before the all the police crime shows where they have these professional dead people, I guess you could say, cadavers laying around. So I do think that this is kind of ahead of its time for evening television, primetime TV.
Well, season 6 was just firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
It jumped out the gate and really, really good. It takes Barkley on an arc that we didn't expect him to take, and now the body horror begins. Glowing blue skin.
I did like how they kind of they telegraph a lot of stuff of what's happening to Barkley. It's like, of all the things that are happening to you, this is the one guy who you would trust the least, but you kind of have to watch this emotional struggle he goes to. It's like, man, if I was Riker, they'd be on top of this 100%. But he has to deal with his fear before he reaches out to somebody, and that's so difficult. That little blue effect on the arm reminds me of the Lower Decks episode where Boimler was stuck in phase.
Yes. I wonder if they got the idea from this.
That would be great. Yeah. And they also had that dog that would turn into like rainbows or cubes and roll around and fly.
But we're doing some WebMD with Barkley on the computer about transporter psychosis. And of course, it's going to tell him that, like, what are the biggest cues that you have is that you're thirsty. Like, oh no, I just asked for water.
2209. I wonder if they ever established when transporters first came online before Enterprise.
Well, they were, had that episode with Bill Cobb about how he was the guy that like designed them, and he was working to see if humans could use them on a regular basis. Because that's the thing they bring up in here is that, decontamination that's built into the transporter should have taken care of what's going on with him, and it didn't. I always liked the old Enterprise decontamination model with the gels and the the back rubs. And...
I love how Barkley's just squinting his eyes for the myopia.
Yeah.
Well, not all of these symptoms listed, but transporter psychosis kind of sounds like a type of schizoaffective disorder where you're you're not sure if the input you are receiving is externally generated or internally generated.
It was space madness. Da-da-da-da.
Picard's standing kind of close to Beverly there.
They're sharing a moment.
Or they both want to sit in that chair and they haven't sat down yet because that would start the real shoving match. Okay.
It's like, let's play a game my Aunt Adele taught me, musical chairs. And of course he sings Frere Jacques.
Oh, yeah.
Alouette.
Alouette, je t'alouette.
I had a water bottle like that for a long time. I might still have it.
Meanwhile, in engineering,
like, okay, let's see what we can do with this force field dealy here. I love that they do it in main engineering and not in any kind of a lab. It's like, main engineering's a lab. Like, man, we have more secure labs on the ship that aren't right next to the warp core. It's fine.
Even Data's lab. But you're right. That would be a really nice set to see as a lab. Voyager even had a medical lab. If you remember, it's just kind of right around the corner behind the doctor's office. They rarely went in there, but from time to time they did.
Yep.
Data's really good about this. He's genuinely concerned. It's like, Barclay, you seem to be checking your pulse more than normal. Are you okay? And just the fact that he's carrying around a bottle of water, nobody does that.
Like that area that Barclay stepped into too. It's like, that seems like somewhere that might be safer to do this experiment.
Jordy, now I know I'm only 3 souls away from running the ship, but does that guy seem a little crazy to you?
Yeah.
I can't tell.
Up the ladder with his water bottle.
Jordy is just an amazing person. The fact that he's willing to see what's going on.
Agreed.
It's not water, it's whiskey. Really. I'd much rather admit to a drinking problem than a drinking problem. This is where I could hear him belt out in a Scottish accent. Would you like a wee nip?
I think McCoy drank more than Scotty did.
Oh my gosh. McCoy just pulled the grumpy alcoholic pretty well. And I always imagined him having that old man smell.
Oh, and poor Troy's got to find Barclay. I like this where he's like, I don't ever walk around on this deck. Great. The best deck of the ship. Look at me go.
That is some speed walking right there.
I love that so much because it's like the corridor is just, one reused set over and over again. But you have to pretend that it's like, miles and miles of this on the ship.
And it is cool that they have this. But you're right. It would bother me that you couldn't distinguish one deck from another. If the Enterprise were real,
yeah,
I bet you what they do is they give each deck slightly different color themes. So like if you're in an emergency and a bulkhead explodes and you got to run somewhere, and then maybe you're a little dazed from the explosion, you're like, wait, am I on deck 3 or deck 27? I can't even tell anymore, and the computers are down. I know in office buildings, even just the numbers of the door, the room numbers. So usually the number in the hundreds is your floor. So if you're on the 3rd floor, it'd be room 300. If you're in the first room of the 3rd floor, that would be room 301, and etc.
And once again, open flame on the starship. When we had a big episode explaining how they can't have that.
Yeah. It's I could hear the Family Guy seagulls. Whoa, hey, look at that. That was kind of cool.
I mean, we could
Flames
retroactively explain that was the illusion of fire, and it just has, the appropriate amount of heat coming out of, heat sinks.
Well, it would be possible to have maybe candles that had little holographic projectors in them to project the
Yeah.
flame. I mean, Data had that thing of what's her face,
right? And there's
what's her face, Denise Crosby.
We assume there's no fire involved in that.
Look at
Those
that.
beds just look uncomfortable.
Look at that scope spittoon right there.
Yeah. Soft, tranquil music begins. Falling asleep, a 9-part meditation.
And Zamfir comes on.
Yeah.
This guy is trying really hard to calm down. It's painful to watch.
It really is.
Always a really good actor, this guy.
I wonder if that promotion that he got came with getting his own quarters, because you would assume that if we saw the Enterprise again, it would have those hallway bunks like the Cerritos does, where most of the ensigns and stuff sleep. Now here he and O'Brien are working together.
So this is in the middle of the night call.
Yeah.
Now O'Brien's married to Keiko now, right?
Yep, and Molly has been born at this point.
So they're talking about all this stuff, what's going on.
So he wants to do, an experiment with himself as the guinea pig, with O'Brien running it, which if I was O'Brien, I would not be in love with wanting to do that. But what's his name? Barclay orders him to, so he's got to do it.
Yeah. And that's why they had to change the pips.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, Mr. O'Brien.
Well, yeah.
By the way, you forgot to bring a tricorder. And he goes, no, I just want to make sure I'm not going crazy. And off he goes into the wild blue yonder. Da, 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 da. Hey, they left the lights on in the ship.
There it is. I just want to be your friend.
All right, there it is. That is the worm, the puppet worm.
I love this. Assemble the senior staff. I would love if he had a which klaxon would you like me to use to wake the crew up?
The Barclay alarm.
Yeah.
Roof, roof, roof.
That's what I was thinking. It's just the Sesame Street theme starts to play. In case you're old, there was a dog on Sesame Street named Barclay, which was literally a person that performed on all fours in a Jim Henson dog costume, and it was pretty amazing.
So I do want to say just how amazing this crew is. Barclay asked for the senior leadership to be woken up in the middle of the night to listen to his problem. And they don't go after him about it. They are all very interested in what's going on, if not a little sleepy-eyed.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to say he got relieved of duty by Troy.
He has been?
Yes.
I missed that.
Yeah, when Troy found him, she's like, you're going through all this. I'm relieving you of duty, which is a big deal because we've never seen Troy be able to do this. You knew that Crusher could do that, or obviously Geordi, Riker, or Picard also, but we've never known that Troy could relieve somebody of duty before.
They talked about that in the first season where Picard was inhabited by some weird alien, and remember he wanted to get beamed into a nebula.
Yes.
And there was another episode where Picard had a replacement. Some alien came in and pretended to be Picard while Picard was in this prison chamber. And I remember two identical conversations of Beverly, Riker, and Troy, and I think LaForge or Worf. I can't remember who was that fourth person, but they had this like, he is acting crazy. We need to take him, off duty, but what can we do? And it sounded like they kept on going the medical route, never the psychological route. But if you look at the medical hierarchy today, if you have a psychologist and a psychiatrist operating together, it's the psychiatrist that trumps when it comes to medical decisions. I don't know if you knew that or not. Because the psychiatrist is in charge of the medications.
Oh.
He's got some nice sleepy hair going on. Look at that. It's almost a bang.
Yeah.
I so want to see people in their pajamas, like Picard in his 1930s sleeping gown and a sleeping hat with a little a little pom-pom at the end.
I think we see everybody in their pajamas except for Data.
That's true. All right, here we go. They're replicating the experiment, right? They're trying to beam on some nebula goo.
They're trying to do all the things that were going on when Barclay went through.
That's nebula goo. Look at that. Again, right next to the warp core.
Kaboom! Well, thank heaven for force fields, because man, that would not have been nice if that happened to the warp core.
Right?
Now he's going to have his attack. Now Crusher had given him a band to wear on his arm to alert her if anything was going on. Didn't work too well.
By the way, I want to say that's a really strong table.
Yes.
Screw the force field. We got to find the guy who built this table.
How hard would it be for LaForge right now to be like, "Hey, Data, what do you think would happen if you stuck your tongue in there right now?"
Oh man, that's like off of the Christmas Story.
Exactly.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Like, do you have a cartoon tongue, like a tape measure?
There, he's out.
A little bit of painting with light, a little bit of makeup on him.
That is a cool effect.
Yeah,
I do have to say. Someone was telling me, and I remember seeing this in a video too, that when they first were playing with the transporter pattern, they just took water and glitter and mixed it up and then kind of colored it blue, like with the painting of light thing, as you said.
Yes, that's how they did it for this show. The reason you rarely ever saw them use the transporter on the original series is it cost a lot of money to do that effect.
Really?
Huh. Yeah. I would even challenge you to look up how much that cost, because it was an insane amount of money. Like, you'll be shocked. And that was, in 1960s dollars.
I find it interesting that after Star Trek, the original series, shut down, um, William Shatner was living out of a trailer. Just on to the next gig. I mean, those folks did not end that show with a lot of money.
No. Well, it was just a show back then. I mean, we revere it now, but it was your typical 3-season TV show. What's DeForest Kelley went on to do Night of the Lepist about a giant rabbit.
Really?
Yeah, I need to watch that at some point. He was a star though. I would equate him to being like probably Ned Beatty level of an actor when that show was on, when Star Trek was on. Like, people knew who he was.
I think he was in Gunsmoke, wasn't he?
Everybody was in Gunsmoke. Everybody was in Gunsmoke. Everybody was in Bonanza. Those things were like the Law and Order of their day.
It's kind of like Dancing with the Stars. We need another guest actor. Get him in here. We need a new paw that's been shot.
If you like radio dramas, go to archive.org and listen to old Gunsmoke episodes, because they are very well produced. I think it was Ford that paid for that show. Okay. And it is quite a good listen.
Okay. So we are beaming Barclay. They're doing some kind of experiment, I think. You saw that Beverly had her medical pedestal there in the transporter room.
Here comes the monster.
And this is where they're switching to static mode, whatever that is. And they're trying to scan through the biofilter. I can't remember why they decided to send Barclay through. Oh, maybe just to kind of pull out whatever is stuck in his arm.
Looking for. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime. Yeah. Send me a kiss by wire.
Noms, I'm going to nom your arm. Hello. You don't look like a taco. So when a signal degrades by 50%, I mean, where does the other half go? Is it just gone? I mean, is this like a new weight loss program? When they beam him back, you're going to get a Barclay half the size. They don't really.
Oh, but he grabbed it.
Yeah.
92% increase in mass.
That's a lot of mass.
I don't feel so good. But rather than a monster, it's another guy.
Worf is on his way. The force field goes up. There's the other guy.
Now, I would have loved it if she had just bypassed Barclay and run to the other dude. That would have been a great little dig. But they don't do.
I mean, without these guys. Without even going through medically what just happened, is like, you need to jump on that transporter and grab more worms.
Yeah. We were infected with something. Lieutenant Kelly tried to reprogram the biofilter. I guess it didn't work because we turned into like weird elephant monsters. Could you have sent a less panicky idiot to get us? I mean, seriously.
Ensign Rowe was busy.
Yeah.
Actually, she would have been Rowe would have been a good person to go through this too, because she does not like to share weakness. And so it'd be a big challenge for her to be vulnerable enough to say, I think I'm seeing something. And am I going crazy? Like, she doesn't pull the whole I must be sick thing. She's would genuinely be afraid that people are going to think I'm weird. I'm going to lose my spot on this ship.
Well, I guess it could be a Barclay episode or it could be a Rowe episode. Although I'm happy about how much O'Brien is in this. And so we're going to end on a big joke. O'Brien's like, you know how I got over being scared of spiders? Found this little baby. Her name's Christine. I'm going to let her crawl all over you. I love the box she's in, though. Because it's like, yeah, that wouldn't attract a 2-year-old to it at all.
No, not at all. I love how they introduce a spider here. I wonder if they made the connection between this Christine and the next time we see Barkley in the episode Evolution.
I think Barkley's in Ship in a Bottle as well.
Oh, yes, I believe you're right.
But yes, when Barkley will turn into a spider himself eventually.
You don't know.
O'Brien wasn't still on the ship, because I would have loved it if he turned into like a walrus or something. You just see the transporter controls crushed underneath him, and he's in there just.
Wait, did O'Brien just get up to walk away?
Yeah.
Oh, he went to get drinks. Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave you with this spider.
Well, that's it. That's the end of this wonderful episode. That was a lot of fun.
A Realm of Fear.
Yes. So ratings. I think that this is a good solid 4 out of 5. This is Star Trek firing on all cylinders. We have our very insecure, lovable goofball that people support and want to see well. They don't shun. This is the inclusive Star Trek The Next Generation that has come a long way since the normies only Star Trek The Next Generation that we saw in the first and second and kind of in the third season too. It's a creative science fiction-y plot. It's clear that the directors had a lot of fun working on this. The writers were emotionally connected to the script. This is an episode that it seems like it just worked and it was well executed. So yeah, I'm going to give this 4 out of 5.
I would too. I think it's a good, redemption of Barkley episode. You see, what his place is on the ship. He's not messing around. People are forced to respect him, and it pays off. He saved a bunch of people that were given up as being lost, and he may have saved, lives on the Enterprise by what he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so we have what's coming up next. Man of the People. Exciting stuff. Well, folks, remember to tune in and listen to our other episodes. We also have an email address. What is our email address again?
nextgenfirstgenpod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you if you've been listening for a while, or if you just discovered this show, and rate and review us on iTunes if you think of it. We would be happy to get some reviews there as well.
All right. Well, folks, with that being said, I'd like to wish you have a wonderful day. Yay.